Hi, thanks for tuning in. My name's Tids. I've recorded some journeys I've done because I believe that visualisation and familiarisation promotes safety. I hope to drop a few techniques on you. This paddle was in the Rame Head Peninsula in Plymouth. It's a 33k paddle we do over 2 days with a little warm-up round Drake's Island. We get there on a wet and windy, I think it was Saturday, and we're not quite sure where we're going. We drive the country lanes and end up in Kingsand, looking over the bay with cannon abreast. Makes us feel part of this area's naval history is going to be with us all weekend. The plan for the paddle is a quick 9k loop out round Drake's Island back. Sam's prepared this plan as part of her British canoeing leadership programme. You can see from the video that you can see the fort of Pickwickham on the left, Drake's Island in the middle of the channel, and look back and see from whence you came Kingsand. However, don't be deceived, you do have to cross a major shipping channel, and I wouldn't advise anyone to do this lightheartedly or alone. My advice is wait, go hard, dress bright, and have an evasion strategy. Drake's Island looks more like a prison than a luxury hotel. It once used to be an outdoor sports centre. It's volcanic rock and it's beautiful around it. You can always go on at low tide. As long as you stay below the high tide mark, you're not on the private land. We return back across the bay, heading out via Pickwickham to meet some locals, and back to Kingsand to have one of the best coffees I've had in a long time. With plenty of the day left, Craig and I decide to go and do some route checking. We go up to Rame Head and we're greeted by the spectacular vision and St Michael's Chapel and a few ponies. This gets us really amped for what's going to happen the next day. From there we go to St Germans, stay the night at a local pub, eat good food and get up in the morning really early. We leave St Germans via the yacht club. To our great surprise, the yacht club holds an amazing architectural feature of the railway bridge built in about 1908. This thing's 100 foot tall and goes 50 foot into the mud, and there's millions of arches, or so it seems. Having seen this, we leave for our paddle elated. So the journey ahead somehow seems shorter already. Here we go, 32k, 2 days. 2 blokes, a couple of bags, and not much else except a credit card. Paddling's about slogging. You slog miles. For some reason you like it. It's metronomic. I sped this section up because I wanted to see how we're going to compress 3 days into 20 minutes.
Now when I was a little lad, and so my mother told me, way haul away, we'll haul away, Joe, that if I did not kiss a girl, my lips would grow all moldy. Way haul away, we'll haul away, Joe.
Although speeding this up's a right laugh and it looks great, the problem is you miss out on what the paddle feels like. Here's how it felt.
We'll haul away, Joe. Now the captain's in his cabin.
The River Tiddy leads to the Lyther, which then leads to Jupiter Point.
We'll haul away, Joe. Cook is in the kitchen making duffs so handy.
Jupiter Point's on the edge of the Anthony Estate, a National Trust estate. There. It's a training centre for the Navy boys, and the Navy boys do what the Navy boys do there. So it's our first sign of life and we have to be careful. It's well organised, like most Navy establishments. Cordoned off, you can't go in there.
We'll haul away, Joe. We'll haul away. We'll haul for better.
Once again, we see how the military history has moulded this area.
We'll haul away, Joe.
We pass by carefully and Craig takes a different line to me. And I'd like to talk about that, but when you go through moorings, it's really important that you choose a safe line. So I'll run you back through my line in speeded up motion and kind of my process. Like you, I've never been down this river before. I've looked at charts and I've looked at maps. So as I come across this area, Craig pulls over. I make an assessment. I eat something. I float with the tide. I check around, I look, and then I pull hard river right, cross the moorings as soon as I can and make sure that I'm not going to impact on them. Craig takes a different line. I'd always advise you to get out of moorings and across them, but you need to practice it. Entrapment on a mooring is no funny thing and could endanger your life. Running these moorings, we then come to a little island. It's really quite sweet and it's where the tamer and the liver meet. We stop there, we check all the oyster shells. And we're really excited by the distance we've made already. We paddle around the corner and we're about to come to our first hazard. Civilization brings with it many troubles. This one is the Kreml Ferry. You notice we stop and pause for the ferry, and then we pass by once it's landed. The ferryman's really skilled. Key to him seeing us is our bright colour. There are more dangers ahead. I check the navigation. The next one are the pipes. These feed the refinery. Because we've timed it well on the tide, we can get underneath. And that's great because it marks breakfast. We stop for an hour to have a really nice breakfast and plan our next part of the route. That's Tor Point to Kingsand where we're going to stay the night. But by the time I come out, the tide has moved and there's loads and loads of mud. I'm used to this, living on a muddy estuary. So barefooted I pull my way through. But with 30 kilograms of kit on board my board, it's not very pretty. Having dragged my board into the water, I'm now confronted with our next danger, the Tor Point ferry. This is a chain ferry, and there are 3 of them, moving back and forward between Plymouth and Tor Point. What you don't see on camera is I whistle the captain, and he allows us to pass, and as we pass, the wind hits us in the face, so we have to paddle hard. This is not for the light-hearted.
Here it comes. Ferry dodgers. Clear.
I call to say we're past, and even for a seasoned old salty like me, that's quite exhilarating passing that ferry. We then head out across the channel, making sure we stay to the right of the red buoy, keeping it on our left shoulder, which is normally what you do on the way in. But we're demonstrating to the shipping we know what we're doing and to the harbour patrol vehicle, although they keep a close eye on Craig. From there, we cut across to the Dragon's Teeth. This is where we went yesterday to Drake's Island, so we know the area, but the rain and the wind make it hard going. When we get to the Dragon's Teeth, it's great to be able to see them from a different perspective and to be able to see the remnants of the cable triangle there. We go back via Picklecombe into Kingsand and we find our bed and breakfast. We get out of our wet clothes, have a sleep, watch the football, eat some food, and we're up the next day, met in the bay by pirate ships. This part of the paddle is the most exciting for us because it's going around Rame Head. We leave Corsand and Kingsand, remembering how pretty they were, not built for cars, and although they're full of holiday homes, they have a charm. This part of Cornwall is quite special. I go out to investigate the ships to see if they're friendly, whether they are pirates or not. When approaching a boat like this, you always have to be careful because they have the captain on board and he's quite entitled to say to you, stay away. So watch the tides, watch the flows, and I make verbal inquiry as to their friendliness.
Morning guys, you a bit wet? Yeah, it looks lovely, doesn't it? You anywhere nice today? Oh, we can see us later. But you picked up a couple of seals down there.
Oh yeah.
Fluorescent seals.
Oh yeah.
Hello ladies, alright?
Lovely day for it.
Yeah. Now we're going to go Portwrinkle.
Having had a chat with the seabirds, I whistle Craig and we move on to the main course, Rame Head. It's only 5k away and I'm amazed by the landscape. We stop, we take photos. It's great to see the area we saw from above from below. It's just so stunning. I've seen this area before coming the other way, but never this way, and I take more time. Before I was just paddling hard and raising money for charity. Today I'm here to enjoy it. We paddle around the corner of Rame Head. We find some lovely secluded bays, and we love looking back up from whence we looked the day before. It is quite a special area. So the final leg now from Rame Head to Portwrinkle. This we do along Whitsand Bay. From our little beach, we look up from whence we look down, and off we go. I look up at it, it's so tall and exciting, it makes me want to sing badly.
We're going on towards Portwrinkle, lifeguarded beach here. There's a nice little swell, it's just about catchable with all this weight. Two reasons I don't catch it. One is we're on time scale to meet, and two is I don't want to damage the camera, which if I get it wrong, ball goes over, the camera gets damaged, I don't record the trip. Okay, but what it is worth understanding is how close to be. You can see where I am to where Craig is. In the swell where Craig is, it's a lump. Where I am is on the line where it breaks. This makes the swell more damaging to us here. You can just see it in the camera. It's breaking ahead of me there. Okay? So just be careful when you're running the shore, because it's the same swell out there as here, it's just the bottom, the bathymetry is different. So here we're going through that bathymetry towards that break, just right here. You see the water's behaving differently here because it's shallower. There's a hard spot probably with a rock underneath. Out past it, there we go again, another little one there, rounding off. Now if they're large, they will take you and spill you with all your kit, even if it does weigh 60 kilograms. So on a journey, much as you'd normally surf those, you just try and avoid them by being that little bit deeper out to sea, out in the deep water where you're not getting those effects. That's why Craig is where he is and I'm where I am. Thank you very much. So Portwrinkle journey, 45 minutes from the crook of the bay at Rame Head, and around about 1:45, 1:50, 13:50 hours. Just gone past one of the lifeguard stations here. There's no one on the beach really. Forecast wasn't good, but there's blue sky out to sea, and the base northeasterly wind has been holding off since we came around Rame Head, and now suddenly, as if by clockwork, a sea breeze kicked in. Now sea breezes tend to kick in when the temperature inverts in the summer. So base northeasterly from the land to the sea has now converted to a sea breeze from the sea to the land. It's overcome the base northeasterly and now it's blowing back in our faces, which makes our going a little bit rougher and a bit slower. So when you're out, remember to take account of the sea breeze. They tend to switch on depending on the temperature, sometime between midday and 2 o'clock, and they tend to turn off depending on the background wind and temperature later in the evening, sometime usually between 6 and 8 p.m. depending on the time of the year and the heat, and then they can kick in really hard if there's a base land breeze offshore at those times. So pay attention to that localized breeze effect. On the land you probably don't even notice it, think about it, but on the water it could really affect your journey. And of course ultimately you're not prepared for it, you're not used to it, the destination, arrival time, and potentially your safety later in the evening. Sea breezes, land breezes, localized wind effects. Massively important on a sup. A lot easier for Craig over there. He's sitting lower. His boat's built for this. Mine, the nose tends to go where it wants to go, so I have to crank my body a bit. We're only about 3k away, so it's not the worst. But if this was all day like this, you'd be feeling it. Think of Brendan. Thank you. Camera off. Camera off.
By that chimney stack. It's difficult to get into at high and low tide because of the amount of rocks, so you have to pick your way in carefully. We picked our way through the rocks and met with a nice sandy landing. Small climb up the hill and loaded up the car. It's not a car place. It's not able to take a lot of people, but it is lovely to visit. But I'd advise you to do loo or get out earlier if you're doing this paddle again.
Now when I was a little lad, and so my mother told me, way all away, we'll haul
The bonus
away
about Portwrinkle is we had a taxi there, and Captain Bracefoot Girdle ferried us the 10 minutes back to Kingsand. That was good planning on our part, and it also meant that we could be back on the road, up the A38 and back to Devon to sleep at home that night.
We'll haul away, Joe. Now the captain's in his cabin,